Ambassador Rauf, do you now have a president in your country after the election?
Yes. Yes, being Indonesia, of course, we have to be proud of, because the recent election is the third direct vote that we have been carrying out since we have reformed back in, 15 years, back in 1997, 98, I think.
Yes.
And then the enthusiasm of our Indonesian peoples in exercising their political rights very high. If we're looking at the data, the voter registers is about almost 90 million people.
Out of
250 millions. And then the voter turnout is still significantly high. It's about almost 140 millions. That's why we have the result, has been announced by our National Electoral Commissions. When we have two contenders, the first one I think is the Prabowo Subianto and Hatta Rajasa's candidate.
Yes.
The second one I think is the governor of Jakarta, Jokowi, and former Vice President Yusuf Kala.
Yes.
And then it was the Electoral Commission announced that based on the final counting officially, that Jokowi's score highest votes. I think around more than 70 millions, about 54% something.
Yes.
While Prabowo Subianto only over 60 millions,
yes.
About 46.85%.
So
I
it's
think
53% against 46.
53% against 46.
So about 6% difference.
Yeah, 6% is about almost 9 million votes.
A very small margin.
Very small margin compared. I mean, if we look at the proportions of the voters.
Yes.
It's very much. That's why it is the first time we have this experience. The first one is that only two contenders.
Yes.
The second one, it appears to be head-to-head.
Right.
So that's why, of course, in these situations, I think whoever is in the losing side, of course, in the narrow margins, of course, try to to find out why and which factors that cost him loss or in the losing side.
Right.
And then of course in our case, starting from, for instance, in the direct election in the district level up to the governors, this kind of things always come up because there's a lot of allegations of vote rigging, voting irregularities, money politics, and so on. These become factors that can spoil the result.
Prabowo says he will challenge the election result in the Constitutional Court.
Yes.
That means that it could be a long drawn out battle.
It is true, but let me first say this. In the general perspective I mentioned before, in terms of the feelings and the mood of the grassroots levels, the real peoples, during the day of voting on the 9th of July, I mean, we have throughout Indonesia about 560,000 voting stations. It running very smoothly. So in this case, for us in Indonesia, we have to be proud of.
Sure. And you have so many islands.
That's why I say we can be proud of, because we have Indonesia is so big, so diverse in terms of social culture. We have 384 ethnicities living in the 17,000 islands.
Yes.
Yet our people managed to cast their political rights in a very ordinary manner.
Yes.
This is something that for us we appreciate our peoples. So that's why, in the grassroots level perspective, they feel, we call it, our peoples are jubilant. They are all the real champions
Ah.
because they cast their vote without any.
So they have the right to vote now,
Yes.
and they have exercised their
And then they do
right
in
to
an
vote.
ordinary manners.
Ah.
But coming back to again to the challenge, of course, the contenders, as I said before, trying to find out ways in finding out why or which factors that causing him, lost the battle.
Yes.
That's why Prabowo, from that perspective, I think, try to take all avenue to challenge the result.
I see.
But again, as I say, we are so fortunate in Indonesia. We have established democratic institutions. I mean, in the relatively very young, about 15 years or so,
Right.
And we managed to establish this kind of thing. That's why we have a constitutional court. Whoever side may dispute the result. The legal avenue is there. So you don't need to go down to the street.
No.
That's why the Prabowo, I think today, is going to lodge their case. And then I think Electoral Commission also ready to entertain that.
There was some fear a few days ago that supporters from both sides might go onto the street and clash. That didn't happen.
This is sometimes people misread the situations. It is quite surprise for us also. That's why I say when we managed to have this election day in a very smooth way,
Yes.
and then our hope at that time is that when the announcement was made, our people also will accept whatever the result and happen to be during the day of announcement. Many predictions, many kind of views that they might come down to the street to pressurize the electoral commissions to favor their respective side. But it didn't happen. Because my president also invite the two contenders, appeal to them,
Yes.
and then to ask them to complete all the election process from the beginning up to the in the responsible manners. It is therefore they asking the two contenders to appeal to their followers
To keep calm.
to keep calm and then leave it to the legal institutions to take its course. That's why my president say whoever displeased or dissatisfied with the results, we have a constitutional courts available. That's the avenue that everybody is doing. The second one, I think, because from the beginning, our security apparatus, the police, supported by the armed forces,
Yes.
make it clear that we are in the neutral positions, but whoever is going to disrupt the law and orders, and then we will be dealing with accordingly.
Your police do not take sides.
No, because should have to be neutral. That's why they didn't have a voting right.
Police cannot vote.
Police and the armed forces, they cannot vote.
Oh.
Unlike in the past, they cannot vote, but they've been compromised by giving a free tickets to the parliament during President Suharto.
Yes.
Free tickets. There's 100 seats in the parliament.
Quota of seats.
Yes. But since then, they have to return to the barrack,
Yes.
and then the police and the armed forces split. The police dealing with the internal security, the armed forces for defense. But during this kind of situations, our security apparatus in the food alert.
Yes.
This is a kind of also showing to the public that the state are ready to anticipate unintended consequences if happen to be, happening. For instance, but they are on a standby. So our armed forces, our police didn't have a voting right.
What is the role of the military now in Indonesia's political landscape?
As I said before, as a part of the reforms back in 1999, it's been split because the police and armed forces happened to be one. And then after that, it was a reform. The police responsible for the peace and order, the armed forces for defense. So until now, our armed forces stick to their their roles,
Yes.
continue to follow the result of the reforms back in more than 15 years ago, and
Right.
then become a professional soldiers, staying inside the barracks, and then continue their duty as mandated by our constitution, always participate
Yes.
in the United Nations peacekeeping operations. So that's why this is also our interest, the interest of armed forces to be professional.
There's no possibility of a military coup in Indonesia?
Based on my understandings, apparently we don't have a history of this kind of things, because the history of the bond of our armed forces is a little bit unique.
Right.
It come up by itself. We call it before the people army.
Yes.
Come up from during our struggle with the Dutch and of course during the Pacific War, the Japanese. It was not intentionally, developed and established in a modern way. They just come up automatically from, all walks of life, the people's coming and then fighting for the republics, fighting for Indonesia at that time. So
Yes.
that's why we didn't have in our record in our history. This is probably because of the philosophy of our armed forces.
But the armed forces were very strong and were running the country for a long time.
Yes.
You think that tradition can be changed in 15 years? In the past 15 years, you tried to reform the country?
In my perspective, I think in terms of the strength, our armed forces are relatively small compared to the size of country. The number of active service is only about 500,000. If you're looking at the 250 million people, very small. That's why in the past, during our political transitions, the role of the armed forces is very strong at that time, because in the perspective of how to keep the countries united.
Yes.
Bearing in mind that Indonesia is so diverse, you name it, in terms of social cultural perspective and a geographical perspective. And then the armed forces duty at that time always say that to serve, to protect the unity of the country, to protect the constitutions. So at that times, and then since we have reforms, of course, situation has changed. And then one important thing that need to be also bear in mind in terms of the reforms of armed forces in Indonesia, we do it from within.
From within?
From within. That's why this is a kind of whole package of reforms at that time.
Yes.
It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy. But we have a good faith, we have a political will at that time when the changing of the environment, political landscape in Indonesia, and then all come together at once. It's not very simple. Economic, social culture, political things, including the armed forces. And then, since then, the reforms continually to develop. But of course, it's not enough. We need to, to sustain this in the
What
past.
do you think are the main factors that have so far made political reform in Indonesia quite a success story as far as the ASEAN countries are concerned?
I mean, probably if we're talking about successful, in a certain extent, yes, because we still have a lot of challenges ahead.
Sure, but the fact that you can have peaceful elections, the fact that people can exercise their rights, the fact that the military role is confined to defending the country, that picture has become quite apparent. And Thai people are saying, hey, let's look at Indonesia, maybe that's a good example.
But the way, at least from Indonesian perspective, the main factors, I think, is because the people want it.
Yes.
After we've been experiencing political turbulence from times to times. Indonesia, I mean, if you're looking at the history, we can be frank by saying that during the time when we gained our independence, we always experience a political upheavals.
Yes.
And every time of the changing governments, it's almost done in a very bloody environment.
Yes.
You name it. I mean, during Sukarno to Suharto.
Yes.
You see, it's not very. And then
turbulent and bloody.
Yes, and each president finished in not very dignifying way. Sukarno just end up there like that.
Yeah.
And then President Suharto come up, building up the administration for more than 30 years.
Yes.
He maintained and he managed to have Indonesians' stability as a prerequisite to have Indonesians, opportunity, chance to develop the economy.
Yes.
That's why we are, in terms of economic development, we are quite successful because the environments that stables, normals. But unfortunately, in the absence of human rights,
right.
denying democratic
That's
rights
right.
of the peoples, and that's I've been almost 32 years. And then after that, there are several presidents coming in the short time of periods. This is a kind of, for us, a kind of learning process. And then from bloody one, start to be a little bit developing in less bloody one.
Yes.
Until, we have it back in 1998 when we have a riot. And this has become a starting point because the wishes of the people coming down to the parliaments, brought the president down, and then from that periods, the grassroots, civil society sprawling up, the media freedoms coming up, happen within the society where the people can express their views, can express their perspective in a relatively free way.
So you think you have enough democratic institutions now to protect democracy?
This is one of the outcome of the reform. As I said before, we have a total reform.
Yes.
It is not easy because come up in the same times.
Sure.
With the very strong pressures from our people. That's why we established about the rule of law.
Right.
Starting to implement the principle of good governance. Establish a kind of democratic institution. Political parties now, have become one of the very important institutions. We established also independent institution that it didn't exist in the past. For instance, we have a constitutional court. We have very very fearful anti-corruption commissions.
Yes.
And we have other, for instance, running the election, we have a National Electoral Commission.
Yes.
And then there's also an institution that supervise and control this. That's what we call it the Badan Pengawas Pemilu, Electoral Control Board.
Controlling the election commission.
Yes. And then this is some kinds of democratic institution that we established. Relatively young. It's not that, running in a perfect way. But I think if coming back to your question before, this is the wish of the peoples. And then what we need to do now for us, as a challenges ahead, how to have more consolidated democracy at the moment.
But corruption is still a problem, right?
It's a big problem. This is why...
So democracy cannot solve corruption?
But with our good faith, a strong commitment, especially supported by the peoples, with the transparency, because we are very, very active in the wide-ranging type of media, especially in the arrival of social media. There's nothing much you can hide at the moment.
That's right.
So corruption grow up in the community that's not transparent. And then the corruption, nobody can deny that. Still big a problem in Indonesia. But with the existing of these institutions, 5 or 10 years ago, we never realized that the active police generals, because of involving, based on the legal evidence, involve the corruption practices. Now in jail, we never realized before, active governors, active ministers, even, active member of parliaments, now in jail.
So you catch the big fish also, not only the small
Not only
fry.
the small one. Even quite surprisingly, the highest authority in our legal system, the president of Constitutional Court, because one of his duty is to settle this electoral dispute from the district level to the governor level. That's every year we have more than 500 elections.
Yes.
During this time, there is a fourth regime, money politics, and it apprehended by Corruption Commission.
He took money?
Taking a bribery.
The judge took money?
Yes, not the judge, the president of the Constitutional Court.
Oh.
Now he's in jail. So that's why I say that we're trying to fight this. It is not easy, yes, because of the magnitude of the corruption practice in Indonesia and has been there for so long.
Right.
But in the presence of these institutions, we are very confident that it's quite effective, and we can feel it now within as being a member of bureaucracy.
Yes.
We have to be careful at the moment. Even if you read in the media, former ambassador for the high-ranking diplomats are also in jail. So this is the fact in Indonesia.
Do you have to declare your assets?
Yeah, we have to declare our assets. Every time we move to another public positions, we have to declare.
Even ambassador?
Yes, yes.
So public servants
Public
all
servant.
have to declare their assets.
Yes, yes, yes.
The two candidates for this election, what are their big differences in the view of the Indonesian people? The difference between Jokowi and Prabowo.
At least from the public
Yes.
perspective, there are two different perspectives depicting
Yes.
the two candidates.
Yes.
Prabowo happened to be as a kind of a strong man in the military.
Yes.
Happened to be the commanders of special forces.
Yes.
With the military background, is perceived as in terms of appearance.
Yes.
As a decisive, as a very strong leaders, and then very, how to call it, more confidence in dealing with
sign of strong leadership.
strong leadership, that kind of things. But unfortunately, because of his background, he cannot avoid the negative image
Right.
that given to him by the public also.
Right.
As the figures that happen to be involved in the human rights abuses in the past, happen to be close to the center power during President Suharto, is for simple reason he's a son-in-law of the President Suharto.
Right.
These kind of factors that emotionally and psychologically influence the perspective of the people.
Yes.
On the other hand, the perspective of Jokowi, because Jokowi has no public appearance in the past other than after
Governor of Jakarta.
not only that, only starting to enter a kind of measures in Solo, a small town in Central Java.
Right.
Before that, he was only known as a very professional furniture businessman.
Furniture
Businessman, yes, and a successful one because he export a lot to Middle East and other part of the world. And then, the persons, the figures that speaking the language of the people. It's not using sophisticated way of communicating. It's very easily understood. Men of the grassroots, going down as a kind of hands-on type of leadership.
A simple man.
Simple man, very humble.
Humble, mixing with the people.
Mixing with the people, but with the clear objective of achieving what he's planning his governments to do.
As governor of Jakarta, he did achieve something.
Yes, in the short time of period,
Yes.
about 1.5 years, he made quite significant. I mean, especially if we put it in the context of the complexity of dealing with the city of Jakarta with 9 or with 12 million people's populations.
Yes.
With the flood, traffic congestion,
Yes.
and so on.
So what did he do that impressed people?
Because they deliver what he say.
Yes.
He came down directly to the ground.
Yes.
For instance, how they manage the street vendors. That they become a kind of one of the major problems in creating a kind of...
The pavement vendors, the hawkers.
Yes, the hawkers.
How did he solve the
They came
problem?
down, that they address the root causes, because they think the people come here because they want to make a living.
Yes.
And then they do it because there is no probably other alternatives in doing it.
Yes.
They find out the alternative for doing first. And after they have that one, and then they approach in a very, very closely manners, heart to heart,
Yes.
explain, and then the people accept that, and then
So he talked to them.
he talked to
Did he
them.
move them out of the pavements?
Because they provided
A new location for
Yes, new
them?
location.
Ah.
This is the, and then they do it. And then likewise with the public transportation, they start to have a kind of groundbreaking, for instance. At least after get start for many years, nothing happened.
Yes.
And the second one is,
But he didn't solve the traffic jam problem of Jakarta, though.
of course, it's not easy.
It's not, right?
It's not easy.
But did he do something about it?
At least for the short term, they managed to have, they bring more public transportation. You see? I mean, in terms of the strategy, the programs, they're very clear. The challenge is, I think, how the bureaucrats, machinery,
Yes.
respond to,
I see.
to his wishes.
So those are the positive sides.
Yes.
But what about his negative side? People who criticize him for being weak, for being
if you
inexperienced.
if people want to understand the culture of Indonesia,
Yes.
you can find a variety of attitude,
Yes.
starting from the tough one because of the ethnicity.
Yes.
For instance, the people from North Sumatra
Yes.
and the people from I came from in the east.
Yes.
If they're talking,
Yes.
they happen to be very high tone.
Yes.
But compared to the Javanese,
Yes.
they are very polite in expressing their why.
Yes.
So they're trying to be low profile.
This
is the perspective you can have.
Yes. So
You see?
a variety
A variety of
attitudes.
attitude and social.
But most of these people like Jokowi.
I mean, it has been confirmed through different democratic way.
Yes.
If the people didn't dislike him, nobody want to vote him.
Right.
I mean, even during his major two periods in Solo,
Yes.
Surakarta, the voting cast, he managed to get up to 90% of vote.
90.
90%, 92% for two consecutive periods, 10 years. In Jakarta also. Now it's come back to the national level, over 50%. This is again, I think, confirming that he holds the confidence of the people.
But what are his weaknesses?
This is a perception of the public, especially in the political opponents.
That's
of
right.
course.
That's right.
If you're talking about the political opponent, they explore the weaknesses.
What is he attacked for?
The weakness is lack of experience.
Yeah.
Because they just come back, rising up from the mayor in a small city in Solo and move to Jakarta. And in Jakarta, even he hasn't fully proven itself.
Yes.
And then move again to this is the weakness. And then another one, I think, as it is indecisive leaders, but many people say, look, if it is not a decisive one, many progress cannot move. You see, this is a kind of different perspective. It is depend on whoever you talk to.
Right.
But again, in general perspective, the whole perspective of his kind of characteristic, I mean, look at it's been reflected in the way the people see it, the way the people perceive him.
Yes.
Through ballot box.
That's right.
So this is the way we measure.
But I don't understand one point. In the beginning, in the campaign, he was leading in all the polls with a very wide margin.
Yes.
And suddenly, Prabowo was catching up and managed to become very close. What happened?
I think if you are entering the battlefield with a very strong intention to win, I mean, whichever side tries to explore any possibilities to convince the people, either through positive way or negative way. Many observers say, because I've been here, I'm just observing far away, but based on our readings that transpire in the media, in the commentators and so on and so forth, that one of the reasons also because the machinery of the opponents working very effectively, using all media available, including the allegation of employing black campaigns against Jokowi. There are so many allegations that labeled to Jokowi that happen to be unproven. For instance, he is non-Muslim.
Yes.
His parents originally
Chinese
or foreigners.
foreigner.
The second one happened to be a communist, for instance.
Oh, wow.
These kind of things.
In fact,
is
one
very-
rumor that he was dead already or something.
Yeah, but I haven't heard that he was dead. But this kind of issues
Yeah.
that are still lingering in the heart of Indonesian peoples. Indonesia, I mean, nobody can dispute that. Indonesia, the majority of the population are Muslim. The second one, we happen to experience in one of our black histories are dealing with communism at that time. So you see, there's so many periods, I say before, it's a bloody event. This kind of still lingering. And then a certain group, try to bring in this issue to
Yes.
tarnish the image. This is probably one of them. The second one is also the opponents keep bring up the negative sides even during the time when he become a mayor, he become the governor by saying, look, I mean, he has been a governor 1.5 years, cannot prove himself. Even his running mate Yusukala happened to criticize him before.
Yes.
And then after that, their side also tried to convince the people that they have a good track record. They address the basic needs of the people, healthcare, education, housing.
Yes.
This is related to the real life of the people they're trying to bring up. That's why they managed to win and at least to maintain the support of the ordinary people. So this is kind of the different perspective way of seeing the political landscape, including the figures of the two candidates.
If finally Jokowi becomes president of Indonesia, how would he change the country?
I mean, we can see it during the campaign.
Yes.
We can see their platform. We can see their agenda. We see it at least from our perspective. From observation, I believe it will also share by many people that consistency is there. I mean, he make it clear that he want to improve the economy. He want to improve the well-being of the people by continuing the policies that have been proven working. For instance, a kind of social programs, education, human resources development. That's what they emphasize. Healthcare, and also small medium enterprises. And then also in terms of foreign relations, we anticipate, and I think we can guess that there's not going to be a change because our foreign policy is based on our constitutions, active foreign policy.
No change in
active
policy
and
towards
free.
ASEAN?
I think there would be no change because ASEAN is our cornerstone of our foreign policy. There would be probably, but we don't know yet about the how to call it, the different strategy or different approach. But in terms of the essence and the substance, I think we will continue. So, if you ask him again how they can change the country, our hope and Indonesian hope, as long as they commit and consistent to the policy that has been mentioned during the campaigns, and we are confident that Indonesia will be moving forward, moving ahead. The challenges I think that he might face, like in the previous governments, this is one of the big challenge we have now. The first one is bureaucratic reforms.
Yes, which is very difficult.
Very difficult. And then after being, in that kind of environment more than 30 years under very centralized type of government, this is the challenge because no matter how sophisticated, no matter how excellent the policy, the programs, and the promise to the peoples, if it cannot be implemented in an effective way, manageable way by the bureaucratic machinery, I think it will not be effective. But he already started to implement it at least when he became a governor. They a kind of reforms the bureaucracy within the Jakarta institution based on meritocracy. In the past, based on Not the principle what you know, but who you know. But for him, what you know. This is important one. Even they put the bidding to certain posts. Who has the capacity doing it, please raise up your hand and you can take it. This is what it is. And the second one, implemented also more transparent type of governance by implementing e-government, e-governments.
Yes.
You know. These kind of things that we have a high hope in our barrister reform.
People believe he is clean, not corrupt.
Of course, because he has no track record of that allegation. Even during the election, that many people try to to drag it into one case about the bus, mass transportation, because there is a corruption when we purchase a lot of bus for public transportation. But now in the hand of the judge. But so far there's no evidence, legal evidence that implicated him as involved. So in that sense, his track record still, so far is clean. So allegation here and there, of course, but when it comes to the proof, it's a different thing.
In what important way is he different from President Yudhoyono? Bambang Yudhoyono.
We still need to see, because President Yudhoyono for the last 10 years of his administration has bring Indonesia quite successfully.
Yes.
Both domestically and regionally, internationally. Of course, President Yudhoyono have a lot of capacities also. If we want to compare with Jokowi, also still early not to compare. We need to see, because just like compare between apple and orange.
You think he's a totally different person, Jokowi?
We cannot see a totally different. This is a kind of type of leadership.
At least the appearance, at least the style will be very different.
Of course. Nobody can deny that.
The substance is different in a lot of ways, but I think the style, how he runs the country, Jokowi, will be quite different from Yudhoyono.
If we base on the way he runs
Jakarta,
the government, Jakarta and Bogor, of course, would be.
You will see a totally different president.
Different approach.
He'll be more accessible. He might go out on the streets and meet more ordinary people.
This is based on that. Based on that facts. Yes, the past. We can say that.
Yes.
But we never know in the past. As I say, if he can maintain the way he runs.
Yes.
The governments before and continue, I think we might see the different style of leadership. It's just two different characters.
Totally different.
I cannot say totally different. But the most important thing for us, as the President Yudhoyono say, the progress the country has made under his administration, under his leadership, can be continued by the next government. And then I read in somewhere, Jokowi already expressed his commitment to continue the progress the country has made. So the point is that continuity. This is, I think, that something that everybody is expecting to have that one.
How much influence does Megawati Sukarnoputri has over Jokowi, since she's the party leader?
Yes.
I think she
of course, if we're
runs the
talking about the influence, of course, Indonesian cultural politics is still a kind of, ranking political elite, still something like that. Paternalistic way of seeing it. Of course, the influence is there. So being a chairman of and a charismatic leaders of Indonesian Democratic Party, of course, he has an influence, of course. But one of the important things that we need to see during the campaign, during the time when Jokowi is nominated by the party, is that Jokowi seems to be given more rooms to explore it himself, including to bring the coalition parties. In the past, when the government about to set up, there's so many political parties involved.
Yes.
Aligning itself in different groups, become a coalition. When these parties, a small one, join together with Megawati's party, you know, Jokowi make it clear that you joining this coalition, don't expecting a kind of trade horse trading that you will get here and there. This is make it clear. That's why I think if we're talking about influence, the influence is there.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that he's in the full command to Jokowi. Jokowi has freedoms to, you know, to express himself. Jokowi has freedoms to, you know, to say something, including during the time of campaign. One of the big campaign in the national stadiums, where they call it people concept.
Yes.
There's no single flag of parties of support.
No?
No. It means that, you know, he himself can manage this kind of a big crowd of people. Men of the peoples.
Now I'm thinking of India.
Yes.
Where you have Sonia Gandhi running the party and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, who apparently, to most Indian people or to outside observers, is very much under the influence of Sonia Gandhi. Would this be the same between Megawati?
This is many,
and Jokowi?
This is many allegations also during the campaign.
Really?
That is a kind of a puppet.
Yes.
But he make it clear. I mean, very obvious that he has a say.
Yes.
That's why he said, don't expect the parties want to join as a coalition, that a kind of signing something when you get into power, I want to get here and there. It didn't exist. So what does it mean? It is entirely under his hand. And later in defining the member of cabinets, for instance.
So you don't see the possibility of a coalition government? Because
this is already coalition.
Already, but because we were expecting a very big margin and that Jokowi could run the country with a very decisive majority. But now that the majority is so small, how do you think he will run the country?
This is another challenges that we need to see in the times ahead, because there's still maneuvering now among the political parties. When we settle down the final result, and then we will see how the political landscape. But for the time being, if we're talking about within the context of coalition, coalition of parties who support respective candidates, the parties who support Prabowo is much bigger. So, in the parliamentary perspective, of course, the whole majority that can affect the government way of running the country later on, passing the law, you know, budgeting and so on and so forth. So this is perspective. If it will not change, it will be remain in this situation. The coalition of the, so to speak, because we don't know the term of opposition in Indonesia. So if it is maintained, the challenges that the Jokowi governments will face is through the parliament. But we don't know yet. They might be changing when the final result, when all the process, even probably the possibility of bringing the case to the Constitutional Court has been settled down. And then when the dust start to settle down, and the Jokowi start to put in place its governments, it is possible some of these groups might
shift,
realign, readjust its positions. We never and then become supporter within the parliament. But this is still early to tell at the moment. We still need to wait for until 1 or 2 weeks to come.
Because one of the reasons given for President Yudhoyono's not so impressive performance was the fact that it was a coalition government. Now this situation might happen again under Jokowi.
But again, during the President Yudhoyono times, it's just a coalition, of course. But is the leaders also who want to provide a lessons without really exercising his power in a very strong way. They still provide a chance, opportunity to those coalition to learn. This is a kind of investment of learning in how to become more mature politicians or mature political parties in running the country. That's why many people say, oh, the party of coalitions are kind of recalcitrant towards his policy against him in the parliament, but yet President Yudhoyono didn't fire them. They engage in a constructive way.
Constructive engagement.
If he want to exercise his full power, he can do it.
But he might run the risk of being toppled or being undermined by parliamentary conflicts.
It's not that simple, you see, because impeaching in the parliaments, there is very strict condition according to the constitutions. That's why we're very sure under his leadership, we're very strong in that perspective. And then I think many people say that President Yudhoyono give in too much to his political coalitions, compromising. But again, this is part of how to maintain the stability of the governments by providing opportunity for the partners, to learn. This is a learning process.
But Jokowi may have to face the same kind of
the possibility
issue.
is there because the coalition. If you're talking about the coalition, there's a take and give.
Yes.
We will see. But I think if everybody, member of his coalition, stick to their promise, stick to their principle from the beginning, and I think, and then learning also from the lesson in the past, and then we have confidence he can run. He continue running Indonesia in the successful way.
What about forming a national government between Jokowi and Prabowo?
Yes.
Possible?
Say again?
Can it happen between, if there is a deal struck between Jokowi and Prabowo, forming a sort of a national government?
I think
not possible.
Hypothetical perspective. In politics, everything is possible. But in political reality, from my perspective, I hope it will share by many others. The chance is very slim.
Very slim.
Because the battles during this time is very fierce, very 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 tough.
Yes.
And then when you have this environment in the short time of periods, compromise sometimes very difficult to get. Instead of focusing on their attention on internal consolidation after winning the elections. How to prepare more effective professionals type of government in the times ahead, how to devise very clearly about the agenda, about the policy, short term, long term, what are the pressing issues that the country is facing in the short term. This is something we need they need to address.
What is the timeline now? What does the Constitution say about Prabowo challenging the results of the Electoral Commission and be able to keep his challenge alive? How many days, how many weeks does he have?
According to the information I read, Electoral Commission's already expecting the complaints lodged today.
Yes.
With all the evidence.
Right.
And then I heard that the sitting of the court will be starting on the 6th of August.
Okay.
Probably 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
And then deliberations, and then the Constitutional Court will deliver its verdict. And this is the final.
So, a month or so from now?
About 3 weeks from here. If
yes. So meanwhile, President Yudhoyono, you still be in charge
until October.
Oh, until October.
Right. 20th of October is going to be inauguration of a new president, and then the previous president will relinquish his power. So this is we want to ensure the transition of powers will be run in a smooth way. That's why we have this time.
Yes.
And then give the time for the new government to prepare everything moving into that. Not just a kind of cut of day in a black and white. It will be difficult.
Right.
This is, I think, the purpose of having this time, based on our experience in the past.
That's right.
Because the president in the past was stopped in the middle of the. And this is another one that we need to. For us in Indonesia to be proud. This is the first time of the Indonesian president complete his mandate full. President Suharto. Before him, Megawati, halfway.
Yes.
Before Megawati, Abdul Samad Wahid, halfway. Impeached.
Yes.
Before that, President Habibie, only a few months.
Yes.
And then President Suharto, of course,
Yes.
suddenly cut off. This is the first time.
Yono will be the first president to finish his term.
Yes, 2 terms.
2 terms, yes.
You see, again, this is environments, political environments in Indonesia that we continue to experience, and that we learn.
Yes.
We cannot say it is perfect, but we make a progress.
Yeah, of course.
There's still a lot of rooms to improve in the times ahead. As I mentioned before, our challenges ahead is how to have our, what we call it, more consolidated democracy.
That's right.
Because our democratic exercise is very expensive, to be honest.
Yeah.
We have about 570 elections a year, starting from a district, provincial and national level, both head of executive and also legislative.
Yes.
District legislative, provincial parliaments are all directly elected.
So elections the whole year around.
Yes,
right?
very difficult.
Right.
We hope this government also, with the new member of parliament, will simplify the method and the system of our way in conducting elections. Very expensive.
Is vote buying still a problem?
Still, that's why I said before. Vote rigging is still there. That's why they bring many cases to the Constitutional Court to prove it. This is, I think, also one of the reasons why Prabowo maintaining, his way to challenge the result.
You have come a long way from military dictatorship to democracy.
Yes.
What can Thailand learn from Indonesia?
To be honest, it is not my position to advise something that Thailand can do or what net can do.
But as a friend.
But as a friend, of course, I just at least can speak based on the perspective of Indonesia, based on the experience we have, based on the experience of Indonesian people has.
Yes.
Because probably comparing between apple and orange is not something that we need to...
But at least if a Thai friend asks you, Ambassador, what can we learn from you? Please tell us frankly as a friend.
We have a lot of lessons also to be learned.
Yes.
And then Indonesian perspective, we managed to go through.
Yes.
It is not easy. But the most important thing is we have a political will. We have a good will.
Yes.
And I think as long as we have that, we have a lot of optimistic. This is the most important thing.
Yes.
So I think within ASEAN, we learn each other.
Yes.
Even a kind of sharing norms, human rights, democratic principles, they are all there in our constitutions.
Yes.
We have in our ASEAN charters. That's become a basic of principles in conducting our way in ASEAN. So I think if you're asking what we can learn, I mean, we learn each other. If there is anything good that our people here in Thailand can learn from Indonesia, why not?
Right.
I mean, likewise, we are learning also from Thailand. Many things that we learn.
Yes.
So we find a lot of things that we can learn, and we learn. This is the way friends do.
Yes.
Without necessarily telling, hey, you have to do this, not to do that.
Just
because it is
observe what we have done.
And then if there is anything, a merit in that, that can be also, learned or share, why not? Sharing experience.
What was the reaction from Indonesian government when the coup was staged on May 22nd?
At that time, of course, we tried to, because this is one of the principles that ASEAN maintains. That's why make it ASEAN exists and survive. Non-interference in the domestic affairs of each member. This is very basic principle. But of course, being a mature member, it doesn't mean that each member cannot express their views.
Sure.
They express their view. My president expressed their views. We follow very closely the developments in Thailand. And then we also bring it to the values that ASEAN already enshrined within their constitution, a kind of sharing norms, a caring and sharing society in ASEAN. For instance, including mentioning the value of democratic principles that we put in our constitutions. So our hope, of course, that the people in Thailand can resolve their problems through a peaceful way, and then I think also we learned very clear from the government of Thailand that they set up already roadmap moving towards what we heard they call it more sustainable democracy.
Yes.
This is very important one. This is our hope because Thailand has been playing a significant role in ASEAN.
Yes.
We have very greater challenges ahead, not only 2015, beyond 2015. Being important member of ASEAN, Indonesia and Thailand, of course, always contribute significantly with other ASEAN members, of course, in bringing more progress to ASEAN. So you can imagine if each member, one country is experiencing a kind of conflict within, that I think influenced the pace. You see. That's why from the beginning we say we sincerely hope that what happened in Thailand can be resolved in a peaceful way as soon as possible.
What was the official wording from the president of Indonesia when the coup took place?
When we read in the statement, you see, of course, there is a regret.
Regret is a word.
Yes. Because you see, ASEAN already have norms to share.
Yes.
It's already theirs. But on the other hand, we have to recognize also that Thailand encountering a domestic issues that lies in the hand of the Thai people to resolve. This is internal matters. So bilaterally, of course, we cannot, Indonesia have to maintain that principle. On the other, within the frame of ASEAN, being family, we have a kind of friendly reminders also.
Friendly reminders.
Friendly reminders that we have, we have norms, we have values to share that at least we have put it in the charter. This
about
is
democracy, about human rights.
Human rights, good governance, and so on and so forth. Everything is there.
So it's a combination of regrets and also friendly advice or concern.
Of course, if you regret, of course, it's a concern.
Concern,
Yeah,
regrets, concern, and
I think this is a domestic issues of Thailand to
and
peacefully
so
resolve.
bilateral relations have not changed since the coup.
Nothing changed.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. I myself come to see, the generals, to make sure that the program that has been, put in place between the two countries will continue. You see.
So ASEAN as a group has not made a statement on this, on the Thailand's political situation.
I think that there is a ministerial statement in Myanmar last time, and another one I think during a commemorative summit in ASEAN in Japan. The ASEAN follow very closely the situation in Thailand.
A very general statement.
And then, of course, hoping that the challenges resolved in a peaceful way based on the Thai constitutions at that time. This is the statement that.
But you see, the United States and European countries have put a lot of pressure on Thailand. At the same time, you see China more understanding. What do you see politically in international politics? What does this mean?
To be honest, it is difficult for me to observe in terms of black and white perspective. You see. Because each country have a different perspective, a different way of judging the situation. The way I see it, of course, there is no unified principles in this world. What is each country of international communities abolish the interest, you see. And from that perspective, I think each country have different perspective on seeing a certain issues in one particular country. And then I think, you know, we leave it to them to have that experience. We leave it to them to have that perspective. And have, you know, we have ASEAN perspective also. So this is the way. But the most important thing for ASEAN is we have and we know the principle of constructive engagement.
You still emphasize on constructive engagement
through ASEAN way. This is very important. Many people sarcastically sometimes, oh, ASEAN way is not a way, but it's working. ASEAN way is working for ASEAN. It's not necessarily should be enforced to somebody else or other part of the world to follow, but at least from ASEAN. ASEAN way is working. That's why ASEAN can survive for the last 47 years. Looking at the challenges within ASEAN in terms of diversity. I mean, if you're looking at ASEAN as a whole, this is one of the most diverse regions in the world. You name it. The different type of political systems of system of government. In this region, you find the republics, democracy, social type of government, to how to call it, monarchy. You have it here. In this country, you find a different kind of religion. Starting Islam, the majority Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei, to the Buddhist majority in Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, to Catholics in Philippines. You see, this is so
we
diverse.
can still coexist.
This is why. Why we can coexist. The question, how come ASEAN can survive within diversity for more than 40 years? That's, of course, the answer is ASEAN way. Mutual respect, mutual understanding. Might be doesn't work in somewhere as we leave it to them.
Well, the National Peace Council, the coup makers, have come up with a roadmap. At the end of the road will be election about October next year. You think that is okay? The timing
for us again
acceptable?
I'm consistent in the way I see it. That we leave it to the people of Thailand. We leave it to the authorities of Thailand to implement, to carry out this roadmap with the different stages. Very clear. With the hope that they will coming to the full democratic way of running the country. That's I borrow the words of our colleagues from Foreign Ministry and of course from the government here, that it's going to be more stable and sustainable democracy in the times ahead. This is, I think, that everybody want to have, and then we have to support it.
And if we follow the Indonesian way, we should also achieve success.
I mean, as
you have shown the way.
As I say before, if there is anything that can be learned from Indonesian way of doing this process that has been there for so long, not just come up overnight. It's a long process. That's our hope. This is our, because we learn each other. We learn each other.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Okay, I hope I can answer you.
Thank you.
So, this is
very good. Thank you. About an hour? Kinati?
So,
half, an hour? No, more than half. More than half. Very good, sir. Very substantive.